There is a vitality, a life force, and energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there's only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. The world will not have it. That is a statement by Martha Graham. My name is Carleen Thum, and I'm a chiropractor, and I welcome you to your half hour to health. Tonight or today, during this session, we are going to actually fulfill some promises for you so that you will get value out of what I have to say here. So if you're a new patient in the practice or if you're visiting us on the website, I'm very glad to speak with you today. First, you'll understand how and why your body stops working right. Second, you'll be able to take control of the problems you have with your body so that you can enjoy your life more fully. And third, you'll begin to understand the mystery of how your body gets sick, how it gets well, and how to keep it that way. You'll be left with the ability to make informed choices about your health and to support others in doing the same. And at the end of this discussion, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that in real time. In the medical model, the idea is to get people to feel better and to stay alive. In the chiropractic model, the idea is to heal naturally, have your body do its own natural healing, and to then express life and be alive. Two different points of view. So, this is fun now. True or false? Symptoms are the first sign of poor health. Second, you should seek health care based on your symptoms. Third, drugs will remove the unwanted symptoms. If they don't work, surgery will. Fourth, the cause of your health problem is found by examining your symptoms. And true or false, last one, health is restored by removing your symptoms. So the question here really is, does your body have the ability to heal itself? And answering each of those questions, the answer is false, because your body does have that ability. If we define health as the World Health Organization does by saying health is a condition in which all functions of your body and mind are normally active, health then becomes a state of complete physical, mental, social, and spiritual function and well-being, and not just the absence of disease and infirmity. So basic to this conversation is your nervous system. The purpose of your brain and your nerve system, brain and spinal cord, basically central nervous system, is to control and coordinate the functions of all your tissues, organs, and systems in your body. That's from Grey's Anatomy. Not the TV show, but a very thick book, but it's thick, and it's page 9 in that book. So it's very early in the material that's presented there. So chiropractors pay attention to this. The nerve system dominates, controls, and is your master control system. Life begins with the union of sperm and egg. Sperm and egg unite and start to create more and more cells. And in that cellular growth, at around the 3rd month, what's created is a little embryo. And when you look at the picture of the embryo on the screen, you see something. There's a little darkening and there's a little structure that doesn't look like a body, but it looks like something different. So that structure is your basic primitive spinal cord, known as the notochord. And that is there to organize and differentiate cell growth throughout the life of this little embryo, turning it into a fetus and then into a live child. So by the end of 9 months, the pancreas, the thyroid, the liver are all created because that notochord, that spinal cord is there. 10 little fingers, 10 little toes, all of that because the spinal cord was on the job. You need the foreman on the job to do the work. So, let me now show you what things look like in an adult. You've just seen the little baby. So now you have the central nervous system in an adult, front and back view. So you've got the brain, you've got the spinal cord, and all the spinal nerves. Now you have 24 of these spinal nerves, so you have a total of 48 of them. And they will then supply the peripheral nerve system. So the peripheral nerve system basically forms plexuses or networks of nerve impulses that carry the information from the brain through the neck, down the arm, into the hand. You know, very often people come to me and they have carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal tunnel syndrome can be overuse of the wrist and repetitive motion syndrome at a computer. But the other part of that is that people sit at the computer and they're like this all day. So their bodies are not in an ergonomically balanced position. So they have tension in their neck. They have changes in the nerve flow because of that tension. So very often with carpal tunnel syndrome, we start to correct the neck and make minor corrections in the carpal bones, the situation clears up. Again, we're talking about the source of the problem. So you look at the rest of this peripheral nerve system and you see from the brachial plexus down the arm into the hands, and from the lumbar plexus, your low back, you have another group of nerves that travels all the way down the legs into the feet. This one is the big one, known as the sciatic nerve. Now, if somebody comes in here with sciatic pain, am I going to go here and start to work on their right leg because they have sciatica in their right leg? Probably not. As a chiropractor, I'm going to think much more about going to the root source of that problem, finding where there is blockage or interference, as we heard about in the early part of this video, and start to correct that and let the body find its own way to heal itself. So from there, the peripheral nerves, now we look at the organs in the body. So this is it. These are the organs. This is what you've got in there. You've only got one or two of every one of these organs. So the important thing is to keep them all and to have them work properly to maintain yourself and your function. So eyes, ears, nose, throat, heart, lungs, stomach, gallbladder, spleen, pancreas, liver, large and small intestine, kidney, bladder, male and female sex organs, all supplied by the nerve system, the master control system, sending impulses. And the impulses are being sent at about 360 million impulses per second. So we look at this and we say, well, if there's a problem here, we're going to find the source of it and start to correct it. When I was a very young chiropractor, a long time ago, I've been in practice 27 years, one of my first people was Frank, whose wife Gail sent him in, because Frank had been suffering from kidney stone attacks for 30-some years. He was 19 when he first had these attacks, and by the age of 52, when he came in to see me, he was debilitated with these things. And every year, on an annual basis, he would have kidney stone failure, or kidney stone attacks, excuse me, go to the hospital, have to go through all the procedures they did. He could never resolve this. He could never figure it out. He had good doctoring, he had good nutrition, he changed a lot of practices in his life, but he always ended up with these kidney stones. So he came to see me. We started to adjust him. We found the source of his problem somewhere in this part of his spine. And, you know, chiropractors are not experts at kidney stones. So I did my work. I found his subluxation. I found the blockage in his nerve system. I'll define subluxation in a few minutes. And Frank went through the whole program of care. Took him about a year. He came back after that year was over and he said to me, you know, a year has gone by and I have not had a kidney stone attack. And he had this very sweet smile on his face. I said, Frank, what do you think changed? He said, well, this is the only thing I've done differently. So I'm here to tell you that your body will resolve the basic cellular dysfunction in the organs if you give it a chance to do that. It's time, it's repetition, and it's effort that's involved in healing. Healing means to make you whole. Okay, so now we have bones. We have the cranial bones, and then we have the 24 spinal bones with the sacrum at the very bottom of this anatomical depiction. So your nerve system is the only system in your body that is completely protected and encased by bone because it's so important, so delicate. That's what the designer chose to do. From there now we have the peripheral bones. So the skeletal structure, basically the shoulder girdle, the arms and hands, the hip girdle, the legs and feet, 206 bones, and the rib cage, all supporting the activity of the spine and the nerve system. And then at the very final covering of the package, we have the muscles. Over 600 muscles in your body that actually protect and provide motion and function so that your body can actually perform the things it's supposed to do. But often people say to me, you know, when they come in, I think it's a muscle. I think it has to be a muscle. Well, sure, it does. It is a muscle, but that's not where the problem ends. The problem starts, or that's not where the problem begins. The problem starts way back here, where there's some breakdown in the nerve flow, all the way back to the early ones that I showed you, actually the first one. So that somewhere in here, or even at this view, there's a breakdown in communication. And that breakdown in communication we call a subluxation. So a subluxation is a minor misalignment of the spinal bones that causes interference in the nerve system and basically a loss or a lack of health. So we're walking around, most of us, with subluxations. So we are not in a condition of ease. We're in something that's called dis-ease. Not disease, but dis-ease. So if we stay like that long enough, our subluxations go undetected and uncorrected. We then go to damage. Then we go to dysfunction, then damage, then real disease, and then the final D, death. So chiropractic is about, as I said earlier, keeping you alive, maintaining and expressing life through your body. We're all going to die, but the idea is let's live fully until we do. Let's not end our lives with all kinds of tubes and bags supporting life, but allowing our bodies to go as they go and die when we're done. But until then, let's function at the highest level we can. So if there's one thing that I want you to remember from this talk, it's right here. And this is kind of very low tech, but I'd like for you to see it. It's what we call the safety pin cycle. So let's start right here. Brain, body. So the connection between the brain and the body is now, the spinal cord, the spinal nerves. So we have all of these spinal nerves coming out. The brain is up here generating 360 million impulses per second, sending that down into the organs and then back up into the brain. So it's a constant loop. There's efferent and afferent flow, which simply means away from and back to the brain. So let's say this is your liver, all right? Now you've got a liver, we all do, and I think your liver is called your liver because you need it to live. It's a very important organ in your body. So what does it do? It metabolizes food, it turns food into energy, to say it very simply, and you need to have it in order to function properly. Every single organ in your body is made up of little tiny cells. So the little tiny cells basically look like this. And if you remember from your high school biology, there's an outer cell wall, there's a little bit of cell fluid in here, and then there's the nucleus. The nucleus is in the middle. It's the RNA and the DNA, the basic building blocks of life. So every time your body goes through a change or a shift in cellular activity, it's because the nerve system has been directing that. Over time, maybe 7 to 9 months, your body will become a new body again because there's always new cell growth. There are basically 4 things that these organs do. They produce new cells, they reproduce new cells, they excrete hormones and other chemicals, and they secrete them so that they can actually work within the system itself. Those 4 basic things are the keys to life. Now, your nerve system generates that. So the production of cell growth, or the actual cell growth itself, is generated from here into here. So if you're walking around, as Frank was, with a subluxation, dis-ease in your body, it's possible that it could change the flow or the activity or the messaging into these organs. So over time, instead of the organs producing mirror-like images of themselves, they start to look a little different, and they start to grow back in aberrant, abnormal patterning. So once you start seeing something like this, your body may have a symptom or 2. Now, if you've got problems with your liver, if it gets bad enough, you might end up with yellow skin or jaundice. You might also just feel kind of no good, not enough energy, kind of blah, wake up every morning and not quite have what you normally have to get through the day. That could be a function of a malfunctioning liver, or that could be a symptom of a malfunctioning liver. So what do most of us do? Most of us, because we're not too well attuned to living a chiropractic lifestyle or even thinking about your nerve system as the major issue in your body's health, would more than likely think about going in another direction, probably into a medical conversation, and getting something, some kind of over-the-counter medication. Just going to the pharmacy and ask, I've got this problem with my liver. All right, and you're not even saying your liver, I just don't have enough energy. What do you recommend? Now, some of you old-timers will remember that there was a product, or a couple of products, that would help you with your liver. One of them was Geritol, and the other one I can't even remember, but the 2 of them together, people were buying and trying to use them as a tonic to bring more energy into their bodies. Well, those things don't work. So anyway, first of all, we try over-the-counter medications. Usually not going to help anything, because how is that going to affect this situation in here? And in the meantime, you're taking these things and you're getting more and more aberrant, disorganized growth, and the liver is starting to really break down, and we're losing function there. Okay, if that doesn't work, the next step would be probably to go into a medical office and get some chemical, right? A chemical that's not over the counter, but that's synthetic and prescribed, so stronger. All right, so we put that into the body. Now we're going to affect the communication in here that we talked about earlier. This transmission system breaks down because there's a chemical coming into it. So the liver, which is screaming at the brain, I need some help down here. Now with this new chemical introduced, the liver will hear something that sounds like this. So instead of having, that clear communication where the brain can respond with something appropriate, now there's a masking of the communication. And you know this, people talk about this all the time. I don't feel right when I take those drugs. They just make my head fuzzy. I hear all kinds of comments like this. So I'm woozy. Whatever that is this change here in the communication system. As a matter of fact, when I bring people into my office, we do what we call a wellness workup. And one of the first things that I ask people is not to have taken any medication unless it's life-threatening, unless their medication requires that they stay alive with what they're taking. I ask that they not take it because it will alter, again, the flow from brain to body, and I will get different readings on my scans. Okay, so somehow or another, we still have this liver breaking down. So we've got to deal with this. So if we have enough wisdom, enough information to go to someone who can handle our nerve system breakdown, we would end up in a chiropractic office. Hopefully you would end up here. And we would find the source of that breakdown in your spine, in your spinal cord flow, and we would begin to adjust. Now, as we find the subluxation, the body starts to change its whole energy system. We start adjusting it, and the liver starts to respond, not fantastically on day one, but little changes which eventually over time will bring the body back to its own natural cellular function and production. So what do we call this thing now? This is what we call healing. That is the beauty of the chiropractic work. Over here, we can call this curing. Two different results, and maybe you'd rather have this result, but if I'm standing in your shoes, I want to be over on this side because I want my body to work as well as it can with its own resources. Okay, so how do these subluxations happen? Subluxations occur with all kinds of stress. So it's either physical stress, chemical stress, or mental and emotional stress. So what are physical stressors? Some of them are auto accidents, broken bones, slip and fall injuries, perhaps the birthing process. And that is the first and most important issue with most little ones who are born little ones who are born with forceps, prolonged labor, difficult labors. Their heads are twisted and turned. And there's a lot of massive subluxation that can occur right through here with that happening. Not good for a little one to start life that way. My little grandson was born 4 months ago. And when I went down to visit him, the first thing I took was my activator, which is a very gentle instrument to adjust a baby. And he got his first adjustment during his first week of life. He did not have a prolonged labor or a traumatic delivery, but it was still very important for me to check him, and he was fine. But little babies who are not fine start to develop ear infections and other kinds of problems, which really don't need to be there. If we can find them early, detect them, and educate you well enough to know that we all need to be checked through our lifetimes for subluxations. So that's physical stress. The other stresses are chemical, what we eat, what we inhale, what we smoke, what we drink. All of those things are going to create toxic byproducts in our bodies. So that creates more stress in the nerve system. Don't want all that stuff floating around in there. And the third thing is mental and emotional stress. If all we do all day is deal with putting out one fire after another, and we don't get any repair, our bodies are in high stress mode. So not good with that either. So sometimes it can be all three, sometimes it's one or two. So in addition to changes in the nerve system, what else happens with subluxation is that the body starts to get fixated. The spine starts to get stuck and locked in a position. So you see the vertebra back here, right? You see that there are discs and that the bones and the discs have to work together. The discs are actually little cushions that allow the bones to move around. So if the bones are stuck because the subluxation has now become more locked up, that will create something that we call degeneration. Not good at all. So the bones stick, they start to fuse, motion is disrupted, and the whole process becomes something that we call arthritis. Can be undone, not completely remediated, but it can be at least retarded and stopped. So it's a very important thing for you to have yourself checked, and I'm so glad that you're with us today to learn this. Now, there is a graphic up here, and that graphic is something that I'd like to leave unnamed and not say much about. So I'd like you to give your own title to the one that we see there. It's an iceberg. What you're seeing is the top part, and then you see underneath. So when you come into the office, tell me what you think that graphic means. Let's move on. So we're just about ready to complete now. So let me finish by saying what adjustments actually do. What is a chiropractic adjustment? An adjustment is the application of force into your spinal area to replace and remove the subluxation or the blockage in the nerve system. So it's a specific force that's introduced to release the pressure that's in there. When we release that pressure, we start to open up your dominant subluxation pattern and give that more space and allow for your body to redesign its structural balance. Distortions and asymmetries start to disappear, and we measure those, by the way. We measure them with postural pictures in our practice. Second thing that happens is that we restore, your body actually does this, restores normal nerve function and refines nerve clarity. So people walking around with foggy thinking start to actually clear that up and get more focused on what they're doing. There's a couple of other benefits of chiropractic care, which we haven't talked about, and I'll mention them right now. Sluggish metabolism becomes much more efficient, and the food that you eat, the nutrition that you take in, turns into energy at a much higher and more efficient level. Foggy thinking, I mentioned that. Fatigue turns into more energy. And the last one is that your immune system, which is probably impaired and weakened because of the subluxation process that you're dealing with, your immune system is strengthened so that you don't have to deal with every germ coming down the pike and be concerned about it. You're not going to have that much illness. You're not going to have much at all once you start really getting adjusted on a regular basis. So adjustments repair damaged tissue, and they revitalize that life force, that beautiful innate intelligence that you have in your body that needs to be restored. Let me give you a little example of innate intelligence. If I cut my hand right down the middle, and I took a piece of steak and cut the piece of steak the same day, we'd wait a few days, and over here we'd see something happening. We'd see this happening. We'd see healing. Over here, nada. Dead meat, right? No brain-body connection, nothing happening here because it's not attached to anything that's life-giving. So when you think about that, this is your innate intelligence working. This is your inherent ability to heal and be made whole again. That's what we know. That's what chiropractic is all about. The adjustments allow your body to heal itself without relying on drugs or surgery, hence the reason for that false response on that little quiz we did. We want you to follow through with your care plans. We want you to bring your family in for a wellness workup. We want you to tell your friends how chiropractic has worked for you. When you come into the office as a new patient, you have the exceptional opportunity to receive a gift certificate, which allows you a one-time 50% discount on your wellness workup. The wellness workup includes a state-of-the-art posture and balance analysis, computerized neurospinal and neuromuscular scans, plus a consultation and report. This is a $150 value, and your cost is just $75. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you tonight. To schedule your wellness workup, call me at 609-250-3188. Thank you. I look forward to serving you in this valuable way.